which started in 1992 with the publication of Agenda 21, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. They charted out the course of action where the development does not become destructive, but is in harmony with the environment and makes the life at large much happier than what it could otherwise. After 10 years, when the United Nations took a review of where are we in the context of our Agenda 21, they had a very large international global conference in Johannesburg on sustainability of development. And in that, a new word came to be coined, and many of you who are students of developmental processes must have come across this word. It comes into effect, WEHAB, W-E-H-A-B. W means water, E means energy, H means habitation, A means agriculture, and B means biodiversity. That the societies, and in this order of priority, who are able to handle these factors in a skillful and effective manner will really ultimately lead to a sustainable pattern of human life. That is the message which was given out in 2002 after the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. Further, when the thinkers, academicians, professionals, administrators, they tried to analyze this process further, they came to the conclusion that in this march towards sustainability, there are, again, 5 different factors whose partnership together will only be able to give us the desired success. And which are those factors? First, of course, is the government, particularly in the developing world. They are supposed to set the pace initially, but that's not enough. Second, and there where we are, is the academic background. The academic people, they prepare the population for the future's challenges, and they will have to be effective in creating a mindset, innovative mindset, which can handle the futuristic pattern of development. So after government, the academics, then the private sector. As the society progresses, the financial arm slowly passes out from the hands of the government into the private sector. That is how our banks are flush with the credits now. After the private sector comes the professionals. Ultimately, all the academic knowledge or the outputs of our research, they get translated into real life practice through the professionals' expertise, whether it is town planning, whether it is water supply, whether it is mobile towers and connections. Ultimately, those are academic ideas are given a real life practicing sense through these professionals. Therefore, professional associations and societies are going to determine our life in the future. And finally, the community. Unless the community is able to integrate all these 4 factors, it's not the government which is going to integrate by government orders. The community has to integrate these 4 factors, and therefore the community and the relationship of the community with academics, with professionals, with private sector, and with the government, and the initiative coming from the community, they ultimately determine how the future is going to be. But after this, so to say, an invention of 5 factors, a new factor has also come into being, which is now being recognized, and that is the media. The media can misdirect an issue. The media can also positively direct the energies of the society in a workable, positive fashion. And that is where we stand today as far as the modern thinking process has gone. Take the case of Stockholm. This is not a simple journey which can be artificially hastened. Many of you must have visited Stockholm and seen the Mälaren Creek. It is situated on the banks of a creek. Stockholm had to enact a law saying that nobody will touch the waters of that creek because it is so polluted that it is harmful for life. And the same act the Swedish parliament had to repeal. But after 50 years of struggle with various factors in the Mälaren basin, this is just one example which gives us a clue as to what is the time factor over which we'll have to work assiduously for bringing out the desired change and for putting environment and development together. In that context, if we look back to our own history, which is replete with number of success stories, the latest many of you must have visited is the story of Vijayanagaram. When the foreigners came and had a look at Vijayanagaram, they were thrilled. The prosperity, the cleanliness, the atmosphere around, and the way the whole social life was woven around that city. Many have written on it, so I will not dilate more on it. And it is still available for being visited to see how we had developed our social science, not only technology, to integrate the society with the technological insight and the technological capabilities of our society. So Vijayanagaram, so to say, was the last example available on the ground. But if we look at our history and work backwards, we find in Ramayana itself there is a Kachit Sarga, a full chapter. It's worth reading. In Mahabharata, in Shanti Parva, there is a dialogue between Yudhishthir and Bhishma. They are our, so to say, incarnations of some of the guiding principles for developmental processes. Because after the Mahabharata, the whole society had to be re-established, so to say. And that dialogue, which was later on translated by Kautilya into the Arthashastra. I hope our management institutes teach Kautilya's Arthashastra as a part of our historical background. Now, Kautilya's Arthashastra, when it thinks of an urban development and the responsibilities of the government minister in urban development, the Kautilya's Arthashastra starts first with the chapter on Janapada Rachana, not with urban development. The first chapter is Janapada Rachana and the last chapter is Nagaradhyaksha, means the person in charge of urban development. In Janapada Rachana, and that is where the distinction between the new Western style of thinking about the society and the Indian pattern of thinking of the society, we differ. We start with Janapada as the social background. And in that Janapada, what role the Nagara or the city has to play. So the relationship is the reverse. When we describe Ayodhya, we don't say Ayodhya kingdom. We say Kosala Janapada, of which Ayodhya was the center. We don't talk of Avanti or Ujjain, but we say Malava and its center of administration as Ujjain. So the relationship is different. The relationship is not flowing from the center to the people, but from the people to the center. That's the basic distinction, and that is why the very first preface, our own constitution, starts with the same word we, which is in capital here. We the people of India. So this inspirational force coming from within brings out the real change. Technology, system management, they are all helping in that process, but that urge has to come from within. Now, in that context, somehow, because of the past 2 centuries history of dependence on the foreign initiatives, we had the imperial domination, and the whole world itself was going through a phase of, so to say, colonization, which gave rise to Rio de Janeiro and New York. They were the centers of colonization, not the centers of inner growth. And somehow we got trapped into those urban examples of centers of imperialism, and we have not yet been able to come out. Even the Western world has not yet fully come out of those colonial heritage. So the India's practice of urbanization, India's future in urbanization will depend on taking what the new technology gives us as additional strength and what the traditional values of social well-being we have inherited, and weaving them together will be able to really provide the Indian pattern of new social setup. Now, where are we in that context? For some reasons, we became village-centered or village-centric in our thinking of development as a philosophy for a long time. But not that the villages are not important, but villages by themselves cannot give rise to the modern and a prosperous life. Therefore, villages and the urban centers together, when they are woven together and work together in the pattern of a Janapada, then only the real success can be achieved. Incidentally, because of various good factors, if you go to villages, today villages are much better socially organized than the urban societies. In urban societies, there is considerable disintegration of the society. So we'll have to create a new social ethos in the urban society before we can think of a smart city. For the next 2 days, we are going to discuss various aspects of what can lead us finally to the smart city. But the social ethos is going to be the main foundation of our smart city, and I hope we all together will work towards the concept of what the United Nations have been saying, better city, better life. But that's not wholly true. The United Nations and the Secretary General has been going around the world and telling us to think of the future we need. And in our classical academic textbooks and in our teaching, we are trying to extrapolate our history. We are trying to extrapolate what we have achieved rather than trying to look beyond the horizon and prepare our next generation to have the capability of facing that new challenge and going beyond the horizon. Now that is the challenge that we will have to discuss when we think about the smart cities. Globally, we are in a phase of, so to say, learning and working out the right pattern of urbanization and the role of smart cities. Speakers in our different sessions are going to throw light on some of these factors, so I would not like to dilate on it right in the beginning. One of the things which the Europeans have achieved, because they are the Greens movement, the environmental movement started first, and naturally there is much to learn from many of their cities. Copenhagen, for example, there is much to learn from Copenhagen. But today, in the modern world, the ideal city with a population of less than 300,000 is the city of Freiburg. It is on the boundary between Germany and France and Switzerland. It's in that corner. You may not be able to believe, but the solar university is in Freiburg. And Freiburg has roughly 40% of the sunlight that what we get. And the solar university is there. That shows the gap that we have to fill up before we are able to take a real lead in establishing India in the modern world as a real center of civilization, which we were in the past. Freiburg has much to tell us. I will not dilate more because in the next sessions, I am sure more light will be thrown on it. We had two challenges, basically, when we did discuss the question of smart city. Establishing for the migrating population new centers, new urban centers, and a good example is just across the creek, the new Mumbai. Or in the past, we had Chandigarh, We had Gandhinagar. It is very easy to re-establish, to establish a new city with modern technology, with modern concepts, with modern efficiency, and make it much more livable than other cities. So that is one pattern that we will have to follow, and which Government of India has already detailed out the breakup of those 100 also, and these new cities have a prominent place in that. But the second one, which is more challenging, is converting the old cities, because we can't forgo all that infrastructure and forgo all that large population, which we cannot remigrate them back to somewhere else. Therefore, transforming the old setup into new, modern, efficient setup is going to be a much more difficult task. So when we discuss about the smart cities, we will have two parallel lines of work and arrangements, but both of them will have one common footing if the movement has to succeed. Today, what is the missing link? In the last factor that we saw, community, is the urban community organized? What is going to be our answer? Politically, yes, they have elections, they have municipal councillors, they have mayors, but as far as the development and economic arrangements are concerned, do the citizens have a voice? Today, we do not have what are known as Nagari Mancha, Citizens Forum. And unless we establish the Citizens Forum and they start thinking about their city with a feeling of affinity for the city, with the feeling of purpose for the existence of the city, with the feeling of owning the city,